Spirit Airlines is gone, Hyatt is about to get very expensive, and we've got 3 international trips in the works. Today we're talking all the points and miles things, so let's get into it. Hi, I'm Rhea.
And I'm Dwayne.
And we are your hosts of the Travel Party of 5 podcast, where we share how we travel as a family of 5 around the world.
We will also share how we use points and miles to travel as affordably as possible and sometimes even completely free.
So if you're wanting to travel more with your family, but you're not sure how, we'd love for you to listen in.
So welcome to our podcast, where we hope you learn a thing or two to get you closer to your next trip. Welcome back.
Hello, friends.
Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome back to Travel Party of 5 podcast. And
oh, happy Mother's Day.
Yes. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
Yes.
Hope you had a wonderful day yesterday, and hope that you were spoiled rotten. Of our 3 children, our daughter, who is the youngest, she is 6, she has been planning her Mother's Day gifts and cards for days now. And I'm pretty sure our boys had no idea it was even Mother's Day until maybe last night or this morning. So, fun times.
He had a great card for you.
One of them is very mad at me, just because I was, I don't know, being his mother and not letting him do whatever he wanted to do. And so he made me a card, and the card is very rude.
Pretty funny.
It was really funny. Dwayne and I both laughed pretty hard when we read it. Like, I had tears coming out my eyes. It was quite funny, but yeah, he's big mad. So, yeah, fun times. Hope all the moms out there had a great day. Dwayne, we did go to breakfast. Dwayne made a breakfast reservation. We went to like a breakfast place that had a buffet. And I think we just realized that we just can't eat enough food for the buffet to be cost effective. It was $45 per adult. And
yes, 25 for kids. Under 10.
Yeah. So we had to pay for 3 adults and 2 kids. And I was telling him, I was like, this is the price of a buffet at a pretty nice hotel that would normally be covered with our status if it was a Hyatt. And I'm like, it just doesn't feel worth it to have to pay for it, And it was only like drip coffee included. And they did have an espresso martini bar that was included. So I guess that was something. But anyways, it was fine. It was great. I appreciated that Dwayne put the effort in, made a reservation. There were people waiting over an hour for a table. I'm really glad we didn't have to do that. So we had a nice little morning, and it was relaxing. Nobody had to cook or clean.
So happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. I just got back from a work trip. And before we get into that, though, I'll just briefly cover where we stayed. And because it's a place you can book with points to stay at Disney World. But last week, I did an episode all about travel insurance and how I think through the coverage that we need and that sort of thing. And I shared the details of our claim from Allianz, and how they covered everything, which was fantastic. Someone asked me on Instagram why I didn't go through the Chase Sapphire Reserve. And I was planning to, actually, for the luggage specifically. And again, I would go back and listen to the episode if you're kind of unsure on travel insurance and what coverage is available on certain credit cards versus whether or not you should get a standalone policy or more. But in general, what I said was I book everything in terms of flight taxes and fees on my Chase Sapphire Reserve so that we have the coverage that comes with that card. And my plan was to go through the credit card to get the cost reimbursed for the lost bag and luggage and clothes that we had to buy. And so, in fact, we even paid for everything on the Chase Sapphire Reserve to make that easier. However, when I was starting the medical claim, which I just happened to start first, I realized I could submit it all through the Allianz policy. So my plan was that I was going to start with that And then if they came back and somehow didn't pay for it, then I would have moved on to Chase. But fortunately, they did pay for it, so I didn't have to do any of that, and it was easy. So someone asked, that's the answer. Figured I'd share that with all of you.
Okay, so let's get into your work trip.
Dwayne has apparently started telling all his coworkers and friends that I'm going on a air quote work trip when I go on work trips. And I just learned that the other day, and I thought that was kind of funny. So I had a conference in Orlando, Florida. I've done this conference before. My company goes every year, and it is at the Dolphin Hotel, which is a Marriott hotel, but it is also a Disney partner hotel or whatever it's called. And so it's a fantastic property. I've stayed there several times. There's the Dolphin and the Swan. Both are bookable with Marriott points. And I only just mention it to say that if you are planning a Disney trip and you want to book on points, the Marriott 50K certificates that come with some of the credit cards you can open are a really good use for this property. And now that Marriott has the ability to top up with 25,000 points, it actually opens up a little bit more availability at these properties to book them with points to stay at Disney. So keep that in mind if you're planning a Walt Disney World trip, that this could be a really great option. It's like walkable to a couple of the Skyliner stations, so you can take that to the park. There's also, you can walk to the boardwalk, and there's boats there that you can take. So if we were going to do Disney World again, this is likely where we would stay because everything else is just wildly expensive. Keep in mind with Marriott, even when you book with points or free night certificates, you do still pay the nightly resort fee. So you'll want to factor that into your budget. But all in all, I think this is a really solid option for families. So,
I mean, yeah, where did we stay when
we stayed at the Art of Animation. That was with all three kids.
Yeah. And that was expensive.
It was very expensive. And we were in a Cars.
This was before the points and miles game.
Yes. This, matter of fact, this was the vacation that we've talked about this a few times, but where we spent $10,000, and I just thought, like, I don't know how people afford to do this every year because we cannot. And the kids fought the whole time. Well, our two boys did. Our daughter was pretty young. So yeah, we stayed at Art of Animation in a Cars suite, which was great. It was a perfect room, but it was so expensive.
Yeah, and a great hotel.
It was, yeah. We also previously stayed at the All-Star, one of the All-Star hotels. That was when it was just the boys and our daughter was not born yet. And that was also fine, but it was pretty basic. And I remember it being very small for a family of 4. Like, I just remember being like, whoa. Oh, and you know what else is funny? For the trip where all 5 of us went and we stayed at the Art of Animation, I worked with a Disney travel agent, and 2 things about that. One, I think Disney travel agents are fantastic, and the one that we used was great. Okay, this is not a knock to her at all. It is more of just an example of how I am a super control freak. And so she booked a lot of our reservations and stuff for meals, and I pretty much went behind her and rebooked everything to different times because it just felt really overwhelming to have to tell her everything that I was thinking. And then she wasn't able to do it. So she because, the reservations open at a certain time, and it's like, you got to be on it to book it right away or they sell out. And so if she couldn't get a certain reservation, she had a plan B, but I redid the plan 3 times. So, the other thing was, before we paid the deposit, I remember thinking that I should open up a credit card to earn points. I don't think I've ever talked about this, but I was like, I should open up a credit card to earn points on this because, this is a lot of money. And the tickets and stuff were going to be I don't know, $5,000. And that didn't include the hotel or anything yet. That, we would pay that when we got there. And so I opened up a Discover card that was 1% cash back. And then I realized that the 1% cash back on $5,000 was $50. And I was just I don't understand why people do this. This is $50 is nothing. And I was like, it didn't seem worth it to me. So I do still have that Discover card. I do not use it. But yeah, a little sneak peek into us before points and miles. Just doing all the wrong things. Next up, let's talk about Spirit Airlines, RIP. Did you ever fly in Spirit Airlines ever in your life?
No, but
No.
I'm assuming it's like Frontier.
Yeah, I only flew them one time. I went to Vegas to visit a friend who happened to be there on a work trip. And I actually ended up staying in her room with her, so it made it like a very cheap trip. Yes, cheap trip. And I think she was staying at the Aria, actually. So it was a really nice hotel. And I flew over. I still work remotely, but at the time I was working remotely for a different company that I work for now. And I flew over on like a Tuesday morning. I worked all day from like the lobby, I think. She flew in that afternoon. I hung out with her that night. Next morning, woke up, worked all day in her hotel room, and then flew back. So I was really just gone like 36 hours. But the ticket was like $40 on Spirit total.
Yeah, and it's like a 39-minute flight from here, so it's...
Yeah. It was fine. I mean, the flight was fine. Everything was on time. Like I had no issues actually with that flight. I think that's where a budget airline can sometimes make sense, is when it's just like a super quick, like less than an hour flight. When we flew Frontier to Disney, actually on that same trip
It was a shit show.
Yes, that was the same trip where we spent the $10,000. And the flights were not even a big chunk of that, because we did like I don't know what it was called, but it was like the Wolf Den something. So the tickets were fairly inexpensive for a round trip, but they added stops. They changed our layover in Denver from like a 2-hour layover to an overnight layover. It was a giant cluster. And at the time I didn't really know anything or have any other options, because we didn't have money to buy regular flights. So it was like at one point we landed in the middle of like BFE, Arkansas, flying home from Orlando to Phoenix. And we went to Michigan and then back to Phoenix. But between Orlando and Michigan, we literally landed in Arkansas, and we were like, what? Like, what are we doing here? And they were like, oh, you don't have to get off the plane if you don't want to. I was like, what? We've got 2 little kids.
Yeah,
like, of course we have to get off the plane.
A shit show.
They're going to give us an explicit rating if you keep saying the S word. Anyways, I digress, but Spirit going under is bad, because the more competition, the better for the consumer in terms of pricing, right? So if there's less competition, especially the routes where Spirit regularly flies, all the bigger airlines, the Deltas, the Americans, the Uniteds of the world, have less incentive to lower their price because they don't have as much competition. So it is disappointing, as terrible as these budget airlines can be. I would have ranked Spirit as the top of the budget airlines, in my opinion. And I probably would have put Frontier at the very bottom. So Southwest is maybe considered a budget airline, but I really don't think it is a budget airline when you look at both the cash and the points costs, I think, are fairly high. So if you were a big Spirit flyer, I would say a couple things. One, get yourself some Southwest companion passes, because that can make traveling as a family on Southwest significantly more affordable. And if Southwest is not your jam, that's why we have points, guys. That's why we have points, so that you can fly a regular airline with a regular route network where they have more than one flight a day into certain airlines. And if something goes wrong, there's other flight options to fix it. So it is disappointing. I do wish it had not happened, but they tried to merge with JetBlue. They were shot down. So I was shot down as a bad phrase to use for that. Okay, what's next? What's next on our outline for the day?
Trips we are planning.
Yes.
And by we, I mean you.
Yes, trips I am planning. So we have a few upcoming trips for the remainder of the year, and one is mostly booked and the other one is almost not at all. So we're going to London and Scotland over the summer. I'm I've said that so many times that I'm sure if you are a regular listener, you are sick of hearing me say that. So I apologize. But I did have to rework the entire trip. So originally the plan was we would fly into London, then we would take a train to Edinburgh. We would spend a few days in London, a few days in Edinburgh, and then we would go into the Scottish Highlands and fly out of Inverness. That was my plan. However, flights out of Inverness, the availability and how I wanted to book them has changed drastically since a year ago when I originally came up with this plan. And so we had to do a pivot. And that pivot was when I found flights from Paris back home to Houston. No, I'm sorry, back home to Denver. No.
It's Dallas.
Jesus, yes, it's Dallas. Back home to Dallas. Take 3. On Air France in business class for 6 people on the same flight. So booked that for points. Taxes and fees were exorbitant, but still booked it. And then realized that the only direct flight into Paris from any of the places we were going to go is Edinburgh. So now what we will do is spend a few days in London, fly to Inverness very early in the morning, actually, which I don't like to do, but it was cheap. And then we will venture into the Isle of Skye and the Scottish Highlands, and then we will go back to Edinburgh, return our car, and spend a few days in Edinburgh before we get on a flight to Paris, where we will stay overnight and then fly out the next morning to Dallas. I had to change Airbnbs. I had to change all the things because everything I had booked previously was not available for the different dates that we needed, which makes sense. This is their high season and we have a group of 7. So it was just a lot. And now our days are mostly planned with a few things I still need to book. Like I want to book an afternoon tea in London and a couple other things.
I had a coworker tell me or give me a recommendation for a tea spot. Apparently it's like the oldest one in the world or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was?
I don't.
Okay. Well, let me know, maybe.
Yeah, I can ask him tomorrow.
The one that I was going to book was an Alice in Wonderland themed tea, which I thought would be fun for the kids. Because otherwise you have to dress pretty fancy for tea. Like if we go to the oldest place in the country that serves high tea in London, we have to put on our Sunday best.
Which we won't have.
So, well, we need to bring one nice outfit because we are going to do family photos. That's one of the things still left that I have to book. And we're going to do that in Edinburgh.
Partial family photos.
What do you mean?
I'm just saying, your mom and sister will be there, but...
Yeah. Oh, but like my dad and my brother won't.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I was thinking our family, but, yes, fair. Okay, so the other trip is Switzerland and Italy. And the only thing that's booked is the flights into Zurich and the flights out of Rome. And I have a few days booked at the Hyatt Regency Rome. However, that hotel has been opening for a year, and it was supposed to open like last December or November, and it is still not open. And as of now, they're accepting reservations starting in September, and our reservation is at the end of September / beginning of October. And I do not have faith that they will be open. So I'm going to keep my reservation, but I'm also going to book a backup. And then if they do end up, needing to cancel our reservation, we're not scrambling at the last minute to have something booked. And maybe they'll give us some extra points or something. I don't know. I've already looked at, so the plan, okay, I'm sorry, let me back up. The plan is a few days in Switzerland and then maybe Lake Como and then Florence and Rome. That is the plan. And we fly out of Rome. So in Switzerland, I was looking at Marriott Homes and Villas because they have a promotion going on right now for 40,000 Marriott points when you register for the promotion and book a stay by, I forget the booking date. Maybe it's May 14th. But I looked at the Marriott Homes and Villas in the Wengen area of Switzerland, which is likely where we want to stay. And they are easily like over $1,000 a night. Like we'd be looking at almost $4,000 to stay for 4 nights. And that is about double the budget I had in my mind. So that's a problem. That's probably not going to work.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. That's so much. So I need to either check out VRBO or Airbnb. As a side note, if you regularly use VRBO instead of Airbnb, send me a DM because I've never booked on VRBO, but I've heard that their service can be a little better than Airbnb. And they're also on a lot of shopping portals, so you can earn some points or whatever, or cash back on your spend, which Airbnb doesn't really have. The other thing to note that I'm trying is I did visit the Marriott Homes and Villas thing through the Capital One shopping extension, and I am hoping that they will send me like an elevated cashback offer for Marriott Homes and Villas that will maybe make booking this chalet in Switzerland more affordable. So I will report back on that, but it hasn't happened yet. If you're not familiar with Capital One shopping, so Capital One has Capital One shopping and Capital One offers. Capital One offers earn Capital One points, and you have to be logged into your Capital One account in order to access the offers. Capital One shopping is different. You also have to have a Capital One shopping account, but it is cashback, and cashback in the form of gift cards. So I guess, your mileage may vary on how useful you find that. But I find it fairly useful for a number of reasons. And I have noticed that if you visit a site and you don't buy anything, they will typically send you some sort of an offer via email within the next 24 to 48 hours. Matter of fact, it just happened. I bought my mom some flowers for Mother's Day. And I have the extension installed, but I actually went through the American Airlines shopping portal to book them or to buy them. And I ordered the flowers and I sent them and they got delivered yesterday. But I also wanted to order my sister flowers for her birthday, which is in a few weeks. And I hadn't done that part yet. And then the Capital One Shopping emailed me like a cashback offer for the same website that I had just ordered the flowers from. So then I used that to order her flowers. So, as long as everything tracks, it was like $40 cash back or something, which was around half price. So I thought, heck yeah, it's a great deal. I want to go back to the Marriott Homes and Villas promotion for a moment because if you don't follow Adventure Parks on Instagram, highly recommend them, especially for Switzerland content. They are American content creators. They have 2 kids, but they have been to Switzerland, I want to say 5 times. And they actually did a partnership with Marriott Homes and Villas and stayed in a Swiss chalet in Switzerland. And that's where I learned about the promotion. So the 40,000 points plus. And if you have Marriott points, you can use your Marriott points to offset the cost of the homes and villas. I have like 39,000 Marriott points, so it's not a lot. And so I can't really offset much with that. But if you have a lot, or I guess if you wanted to transfer in some points, then that could be a beneficial way to save some money on it as well. But I will put a link to their Instagram in the show notes. I like their content. They do a lot of points and miles stuff, but they are not opening a ton of cards. And so I think their content is really, really helpful, and especially for families because they do have 2 younger kids that they travel with. So the other thing that we need to talk about that is very important that in the next week, if you're listening to this the day it comes out or maybe the day after, is Hyatt devaluation goes into effect, I believe, May 20th. So you want to book everything you can for the next 13 months by May 19th. So we did a whole episode on the Hyatt devaluation. If you quick recap is basically Hyatt currently has 3 pricing tiers, and now they're jumping to 5 different They're keeping their 1 through 8 categories, but within each of those categories, there's going to be 5 different tiers: lowest, low, moderate or middle, upper, and top. First of all, the names are ridiculous. Dwayne likes to call the top one the tippy top. So within each category, there could be 5 pricing options, which means there's 8. No, there's 40. 40 different pricing options. What were you going to say?
Do I call it tippity top?
You did call it tippy top on the previous episode, yes. Yes, you did. They also released some category changes recently. It was a pretty small list compared to what we normally see. I think because the majority of the price gouging is going to happen within these ridiculous tiers. There were a few properties that went down in category, and they were all in China. So if you're going to China, great news. Otherwise, not so great. They weren't all in China. There was a few that were not, but most of them were in China. So you want to make sure that you are booking any Hyatt that you potentially could want to stay at for the next 13 months before May 19th, 2026. So now, yes. And a lot of people have already done this and have speculative bookings, which is actually a little annoying to me because, for example, I wanted to book us at Il Tornabuoni in Florence. It would be a splurge with current prices, so I can only imagine how it would be unattainable, I think, to have to get 2 rooms at the elevated prices that are coming in a few days. But there are no standard rooms available, only suites. And I would use a suite upgrade award, but I can't because there's no standard room available to even start the process. Okay, some Hyatts that we're planning to book before the time is up. The Hyatt Regency Grand Cypress is moving from a 4 to a 5. And we've never stayed there, but fun fact, my sister used to work at that property.
I'm sorry, we're gonna book there for what?
Yeah, so my plan is when we do spring break next year, because we're going to go to Turks and Caicos, my plan is to fly to Orlando, spend a few days just hanging out at the hotel, not doing Disney or anything like that, and then fly from Orlando to Turks and Caicos. And
did you see they're opening up a Hyatt in Turks and Caicos?
No, I didn't. They did?
It's not open yet, but they're opening one.
I did not see that, but that's exciting. I'm going to have to look into that.
Also the Grand Cayman.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's still not open. Yeah. When were we there? 2 years ago?
But they were still building it 2 years ago.
I know, but it had been still, I think, coming for a while at that point. Because remember, our server at the Kimpton was like, oh yeah, they've got a long ways to go. Well, that Hyatt, when they announced all these category changes, there was like 5 or 6 Hyatt properties that they changed immediately without any notice at all, and that was one of them. I think it's a category 8 actually, and it had previously been a 6 or a 5 maybe. So yeah, it jumped up multiple categories, and it's not even open yet. Still crazy.
It's gonna be fancy.
I mean, maybe, but the beach area in front of it doesn't look very good. So I don't know what they're gonna do. I just struggle to think that it could be better than the Kimpton. The Kimpton Seafire was a fantastic property.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, Hyatt Regency Grand Cypress. I do plan to book a few nights there, probably using a mixture of points and free night certificates because that's what we have right now. The other thing that I tried to book yesterday, actually, I'm late to the party, so my expectations were low, but I did try to book a Lila Ventana Big Sur for just a couple of nights, maybe like next May or June, and there is 0 availability. So I am sure that property is going to be like 75,000 points a night, probably going forward. Whereas today you could get a standard room for 45,000 points a night if you are flexible on the date. Or book immediately as the calendar opens. What else do I need to book? Well, if we're going to stay at a Hyatt in Rome or in Florence, I need to book that in the next few days also. What I am going to try to do before I give up completely, because I don't want to book directly into a suite, because we need 2 rooms. Even the suites at that property only sleep 4. So I am going to try to call the Hyatt Concierge Globalist line, and I'm going to ask if they will open up a standard room so that I can book it and apply a suite upgrade award. That's what I'm going to ask for. I don't know if that will work.
Hopefully it will.
It will, but I already emailed my concierge and asked her to do it, and she said no. However, the quality level of the Hyatt Globalist concierges, whatever the plural is of that, varies greatly, and mine is not a great one. One last thing to talk about is if you are low on Hyatt points, Chase has recently come out with an elevated offer for the Chase Sapphire Reserve card, along with some new rules that I think are really important. So if you have never held the Sapphire Reserve in the past, even if you currently or in the past have had a Chase Sapphire Preferred card, you now can get the Reserve as well, and you can hold them both at the same time. The elevated offer is 150,000 Chase Ultimate Rewards points, which is the highest that it's ever been. And if we didn't both already have this card, we would for sure be, and we're both over 524, but we would for sure be applying for it otherwise. So if you've never had the card, I would highly recommend applying for this elevated offer. It is a personal card, so you do want to be under 524, but there have been a decent amount of people saying they're over 524 and still being approved. So I don't know. I would probably give it a shot, even if I was over 524, if you haven't already had the card or don't currently hold the card. We do have referral links, and I will put those in the show notes. So it's the very first thing you see, because I will not turn down a referral, some referral points for that. If you're going to get it, we would so appreciate you using our link. And the annual fee on this card is high. It's $800 a year, which can feel, I think, really daunting. However, when they announced the changes to this card, a lot of points and miles people think that the juice is not worth the squeeze for this card specifically. I actually disagree. I have had this card personally for 3 years. It was one of the first cards I ever got jumping into points and miles, and I've never downgraded or changed it. It is my Reserve is the one we use for all travel bookings, and I have no plans to get rid of it anytime soon. And Dwayne got the card last year when they had an elevated offer, but the elevated offer at that point was only 100,000 points. And so his annual fee is actually just coming up in about 6 weeks or so. I just got the travel freely notification earlier today. So keep in mind that we have 2 of these cards, which means we are paying $1,600 in annual fees just to have these cards, but we have used all of the edit credits for the year already, plus the $250 hotel credit per card. We used all that in Thailand for money that we were going to spend anyways. So that was money well spent, or saved, I guess. It also comes with a StubHub credit of $150 every 6 months. So first half of the year and second half of the year combined together, you get $300 per card. And the other thing that it comes with is a Chase Sapphire Reserve tables credit. So you'll have to look up and see if there are restaurants near you that participate in that program. It's kind of like Resi, but like a little bit fancier. And there's a few restaurants here that participate that we really like. So we use that as like a date night kind of a situation. The Mission in Scottsdale is one of them. Big fan of that restaurant. There's also one called the Fat Ox, which we haven't been to yet, but we will, and a few others. So you'll want to check based on where you live if that is a good option. But all in all of those credits wildly offset the annual fee. And that doesn't include the $300 travel credit that each card comes with or the points that you earn. So I find that way easier to use credits on than like an American Express card, personally. So again, 150,000 Chase Ultimate Rewards points. You can transfer those directly to Hyatt. Depending on which Hyatt you're wanting to book, that could maybe get you 2 nights at a very fancy hotel once the devaluation is complete, or like a bunch of nights at a regular hotel. I'll put our link in the show notes if I didn't say that. Okay. Anything else?
I don't know. You tell me. I think we're wrapping up.
Yeah, I think that's it. Some points and miles news, some trip updates. Next week, I'm going to have a guest on the podcast. Yep, first guest. Dwayne won't be here. Actually, I need to record it next weekend when you are at the birthday party.
Who's the guest?
Melissa.
Oh,
She's going to talk all about her trip to Turkey and booking on a very strict work schedule where she really can't afford to miss any work at all. So I'm really looking forward to it. She puzzle pieced together a really fantastic trip, and the goal is to have more guests on the podcast, and this is going to be the first one. So I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, you two should just collab and do the podcast.
Are you just trying to get off the hook?
I was saying, I mean, I bring no value to this. So
I mean, she would bring a lot of value.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll have that to look forward to next week. Any questions, as always, DM me on Instagram at TravelParty5. And if you are going to apply for the Chase Sapphire Reserve, I will put our link in the show notes, and we appreciate you using it.
yes, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. Catch you on the next one.
Have a good one.
Bye.